Welcome to Ohio Roots, the official podcast of the Ohio Genealogical Society. Join us as we embark on a captivating journey through Ohio's rich genealogy, history, and abundant resources. Hosted by me, OGS Executive Director Noel Poirier, this podcast brings you insightful conversations with a diverse array of guests, from OGS members, chapter leaders, and staff to renowned genealogists, historians, and influential figures within the genealogical community. Each episode delves into fascinating topics and captivating stories. So grab your headphones, hit that play button, and join us on this enthralling journey of Ohio's roots. On this episode of the OGS Ohio Roots podcast, we're joined by genealogist Pamela Ellis, author of The Brick Wall, Breaking Genealogy Barriers with AI. With more than 25 years of research experience, Pamela shares practical strategies for overcoming those frustrating brick walls and explores how both traditional methods and modern AI tools can help you uncover new clues in your family history. I hope you enjoy this chat with Pamela Ellis. Pam Ellis, thank you so much for joining me today on the OGS Ohio Roots podcast to discuss your book, The Brick Wall, Breaking Genealogy Barriers with AI, and whatever else we end up talking about. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you. How about yourself?
I'm well, thank you. I'm going to start with a question I ask everybody on the podcast, which is, how did you get started doing genealogy?
I think ever since I was a little child, I was always asking about family and history and different things. I loved hearing the stories about, their lives and who their family was. But it wasn't until I was about an early teen, not like 13, 14, probably about 15. I went to my grandmother's in Cleveland, Ohio, and she showed me a beautiful family tree. And she told me I was able to join Daughters of the American Revolution. It's all proven except for my father and myself. And I'm like, that sounds interesting. And it was just something that I kept in the back of my mind for many years until I was able to financially and time-wise work on it. And that's where I got started. I fell in love with it as a teenager.
Was there a particular discovery when you first got started that you got excited about?
When I finally found my grandmother, yes. It took us close to 8 to 10 years to find my grandmother. My grandmother seemed to change her age quite frequently. And so, you're talking way back when just not all the records were available and what you could find was tough. And then when I finally found her, I was so excited. Like, all of this is now coming together.
You mentioned the DAR connection that you had, and I know you're involved in other lineage societies. Yeah. How does that experience kind of influence the way that you think about documenting and proving ancestry? Do you approach it differently that way?
Maybe not. DAR was one of the first classes that I did take, and back then they weren't as strict as they are now. Through the years, learning about the proof, that you needed proof, that proof is what was required. You can't just assume because they were in an 1850 census that was really the family. Yeah,
and that kind of gets us to kind of the point of your book. I mean, the idea of a brick wall, and how we run into these kind of brick walls. How are you defining brick wall in the way you take your approach to it?
To me, a brick wall is when you've been searching and looking for something and you can no longer find it. It seems like you're at the end of a path. That, to me, is a genealogical brick wall.
And what are some of the common reasons you think researchers run into those things?
Two different things. One is knowledge of not knowing what else there is to look for. And two is not knowing where to look for it.
Are there mistakes that people make when they're trying to kind of break through a brick wall? Are there assumptions, things like that?
Yes. Yeah. You find a lot of people trying to see what other people have done on their family trees and being misled and not going in, I think, a lot of different directions haphazardly, not really understanding the path that they really should take, and also about documenting. People don't document what they do and what they don't find. And so they're going in circles a lot more often because of that.
Has there been a brick wall in your own genealogical research that you've had to break through?
Yes, when I talk about brick walls in my talks, I let everybody know I have a lot of brick walls, and they just keep showing up. And it's you can't help it. You really can't, because I might have learned years ago, but records change where their locations are. What is available has changed. So it's just a matter of going back over them and reworking them and redoing them, and then stopping when that brick wall hits and going on to another thing for a little while to get that confidence built back up.
So what is it that actually inspired you to write the brick wall breaking genealogy barriers with AI?
I talk about my great grandmother's information. They're from Canada. So I was trying to find a birth, christening, some kind of information, baptism that would show me who her parents are. The problem is I just wasn't finding it, going through their notaries and different things. So this is when the AI was just starting last year. And I went to my AI and I said, where do I find this? And of course, nothing happened because I didn't really know much about the AI. I worked on it, a lot of questions and answers and back and forth. And then it finally said that denomination did not baptize their youth. I was like, well, okay. So it was at this point that I learned a lot from the AI and doing these conversations. And I'm going, this could be such a big help and I was thinking strictly of my friends and myself, finding answers and knowing how to look for these things better and easier, and the whole 10 yards, I guess. So I'm like, I just need to write a book. I've been teaching for many years. I usually have books to use as reference, and I'm like, there's no reference book. Let's make one.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the book a little bit in terms of how is the book structured?
It's structured into chapters. First of all, talk about AI and the use of AI, the do's and the don'ts, and what kind of outputs you're going to get, things you should look for. But then I go through each of the basic genealogical main subjects: birth, marriage, death records, land, taxes, probates, wills, many things like that, migration. I go through all the different chapters and I talk about the basics of the book. Is not just how to use the AI. What I put in there is all the different ways and things that the people can look for in the book. Other things that they might not learn unless they took a class. So I put them in there, and I put them in there as AI prompts so they can look at it and see, okay, this says AI, where can I find this record? Well, that's telling them that there's more records there. Or specifically, where would I find Advent church records for such and such an area? It goes on to different things, and then it uses the AI to help them locate the records.
You mentioned there wasn't a book, and that's why you wanted to go ahead and make it.
Yeah.
So how is this book different from other guides that might be out there for folks?
Because I'm not just guiding on how to use AI. It's really a reference genealogical book with the bonus of AI. It talks about the different thoughts that a person might not be aware of. People think in church records, birth, marriage, death, records like that, but they don't think about pew rentals or notations and, all the other little avenues that are part of it. They also don't know that each denomination has its own little quirks. And if you know that this one didn't do this or this one did that, it helps you refine what you're looking for. So that's kind of what the book is about.
You mentioned you're teaching people. You want them to think like a researcher rather than just simply where to look for stuff. Right. What's the distinction there for you?
Researchers, kind of like an archivist, doesn't look at things as just what that document says. It looks at it as far as, what was this document used for? Why was it collected? Where does it fit into the greater scheme of collection of records to keep things? And that's kind of what I try to get across in the book, that you can't just look at the document and say, oh, this is just a marriage, it has this and this. But what if you can't find just the marriage and you need to look into it? You have to understand why they were married, where they were they married there, and who would keep this information? Maybe just not the church. Maybe it had to be filed somewhere else. Maybe the diocese wanted a copy also.
Hi, everyone. Noel Poirier here, Executive Director of the Ohio Genealogical Society and your host for the Ohio Roots podcast. Did you know you can help preserve the past and empower the future? Your donation to the Ohio Genealogical Society helps protect vital family history records and supports research for generations to come. Visit www.ogs.org/donate and give today. Thank you so much for your support. Get ready for the 2025 OGS Annual Conference coming to Sharonville, Ohio, April 29th through May 2nd, 2026. Join genealogists and family historians from across the country for 4 days of inspiring sessions, expert speakers, research tools, and community connections. Don't miss your chance to discover new stories and strengthen your family history skills. Registration opens November 28th, so be sure to register and be part of Ohio's premier genealogy event. You know, it's interesting. I know there are a lot of people who are a little bit hesitant to use AI just in general because they worry about things like accuracy or reliability. What kind of advice would you give them about approaching the use of AI in their research?
Well, they've been using AI for years and they probably really weren't aware of it. And that's the biggest thing. But you're not going to give it your bank numbers. You're not going to give it your private information. So it doesn't have access to that. It has only access to public records that are already out there. People are afraid that they're going to dig into this AI, they're going to find more about them, and it's going to be publicly available. And that's just not what AI is. AI is just a faster search engine that can look more broadly into records. It is very, and what I like about the AI mostly is that you put in your question and it gives you ideas and it becomes a conversation. With a regular search engine, it doesn't become a conversation. It's just question and answer, question and answer. Where the AI gives you a lot of suggestions, what else to look for. You can go back and say, well, why did you look here? Why do you think this? Can you look at this and see what you think? And that's what I like about AI is that it's a conversation. You still have to, I do put a warning in there. You do not want to give it personal information. You have to remember, it goes so fast, it does tend to make mistakes. And people make so many mistakes. Well, it doesn't make any more mistakes than a conversation with another genealogist would or somebody else. And it's just a matter of looking at what the AI, like one time I wrote, and I was working on something in South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. And I said, give me the family search link for that record. Well, when I opened it, it was Colombia, South America. I wrote back, not quite. And it went, oops, my mistake. You're right. It tells me this, and it goes on to that. It's just a matter of it goes sometimes too fast. It expects in wills and in other documents, it's land records. It thinks it knows exactly what it's going to say, so it starts transcribing that way. Well, if you have a will that's written differently, you have to stop it and say, no, that's not correct. You're not reading it line for line, and slow it down, and then it'll read it line for line, and you're pretty good, except for handwriting. It just has a problem with people's names because people's names don't fit into the norm anymore.
Given that we're talking about AI and its use and in technology in general, when someone encounters a brick wall, what's the first step you recommend before they start trying new tools or techniques? Like before they even try to go into AI, what do you think they need to be doing before they even do that?
I think they need to evaluate the evidence that they've already have and look carefully and read it and see, is it really right? Is it really make sense? And then they don't have to use the AI. They can go anywhere and they can Google and ask, where would I find these records at? What I learned years ago where these records might be really isn't the same anymore because as government agencies changed, more records were changed to different locations. So it's a matter of not knowing what else to look for. Yeah, you can pick up any genealogy books and see what they say and what else, where else to look for, but save the time. Just go to your AI and say, where would I find these records at?
Do you see AI? I mean, we get out our crystal ball, and whenever we do that with things like AI, we're always wrong. But do you see AI down the road as replacing traditional research skills or just enhancing them?
It's already doing it. It's already replacing traditional research skills. If you look at your main searches engines that you go to that were in place before AI, you see that they're already changing over to AI. They're already doing this because it's a more thorough and efficient searching.
Does that worry you at all?
No, because I'm still not giving it my personal information. It's no different than going to, if you go to an encyclopedia and get an answer, or you go to, say, Google and get an answer, they're the same answer. Going to AI, you're still going to get the same answer, but then AI gives you more thoughts, more suggestions. You can take that a step further. You can take it into looking up. And nowadays, as these children, people are growing up, they want more instant gratification. They don't want to pick up an encyclopedia and slowly read this and then have to go read that and have to go read this, where they can put their question into an AI and then start from there and have these conversations and move forward. It's going to be just as safe as Googling it or anything else, because it does not have access to paid sites, private information.
Because I always wonder, and I use AI. Obviously, I'm part of a generation that uses it for a variety of things, as a tool, essentially a tool. Yeah. But I also know there are times when I'll prompt AI to do something, or ask something, or look for something, and I will get something I really don't expect, yes. or isn't really helpful, or sometimes outright wrong. So is that a cautionary thing that people need to understand as they use it?
Yeah, I talk about that very in the beginning of the book, that the AI goes, and you would say, what was AI thinking? And you know, I play with it in that sense, and I write in "No, you're wrong" to see what kind of funny responses I get back on the AI. And again, it's because it's looking so fast, and it takes sometimes maybe part of the words that you put in and goes off instead of thinking. And I usually find that what it is I have to slow the AI down and ask more specifically, no, this is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this.
I don't know if I know there are some AI options out there that allow you to upload a lot of your own source material and then go through that. Is that something that you discussed in the book?
Yeah, because I show a reference where I upload several different things in there. I upload a cemetery record, a couple of wills, land records, military records. And it's great because in my examples, I talk about I uploaded a will, and it translated the will, and then it can do so much more with it. It can make a family group sheet. It can make I can't even think of the word. It's not coming to me, but it can give you more information. Like I asked at one time, why did only, the last 5 children just get 1 shilling? And it gave me all the different reasons of what you can look for and how you would prove them. But yeah, I like how it can translate it. But the land records, I play with them and I look, and I'm like, okay, so whose land, we map it. And then what I've been using with it, I'm working on a case now where I'm mapping all of the family's land, showing that it's all in the same area. What I'm trying to show is that the daughter's father was really like a nation instead of a swain. So by mapping all the land records, we're showing proof for, you write it all up.
For listeners who want to start using some of the strategies and start to use AI as the tool that it can be, what's one exercise or approach or starting place for them? Where should they get started?
If you feel uncomfortable starting with your genealogy, my family was having fun. Like my mother was asking it questions like, how does a spider make its web? How does it get from one part of a corner to another wall? So we was bringing all those questions. My granddaughter wanted to know what kind of turkeys people eat. And then it went on from there. And then she did a whole thing because she was learning PowerPoints in 5th grade and did all that. So play with it a little bit and see how the questions come up, and then start with a very simple census record. and say, look at this census record. What can you tell me? Can you see other Finns there? Can you follow other census records? It, see how they all, can give you a spreadsheet on how it all follows together.
After years of doing research and teaching and your own genealogy, what still excites you the most about genealogy?
Oh, it's just finding stuff. When you dig and dig and dig and you find the source and the information, it's just like the first day when it's just proof that what you worked on and how you did it worked. Proof that the record's there. Proof that you knew who you thought was the ancestor was right. And
what are you hoping when folks get their hands on your book? What are you hoping they take away from it?
I hope they see it for the genealogy resource that it is. It took me many years and many classes to learn all this knowledge, and I still don't know it all. And I reference some of my friends, like I have a really good friend, Nancy, and she has her own business. She doesn't have the time to take all the classes, do all this other research stuff, but she still likes doing genealogy. It's her family and she wants to learn more about it. So she can use the book, and I believe has used the book to see, like, well, what else am I not looking for? What else can I look for?
Well, Pam, thank you so much for joining me today on the OGS Ohio Roots podcast to discuss your book, The Brick Wall, Breaking Genealogy Barriers with AI, and just chatting in general. I appreciate you taking time. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the OGS Ohio Roots podcast. We hope our conversation with Pamela Ellis inspired you to tackle your own research challenges with a fresh perspective. Be sure to check out The Brick Wall, Breaking Genealogy Barriers with AI for hands-on guidance, and join us next time for more stories, strategies, and discoveries in the world of genealogy. If you enjoy listening to the Ohio Roots podcast, we would really appreciate it if you could go to whatever platform it is that you listen and give us a good review. Reviews help us get more listeners and reach more people with Ohio Roots and what we're trying to do with the Ohio Genealogical Society. So please, leave us a nice review, and thanks for listening.
The Ohio Roots podcast is brought to you by the Ohio Genealogical Society, the premier gateway for discovering your Ohio family history. Hosted by OGS Executive Director Noel Poyer and edited by Luke Poyer. Theme song is Beautiful Ohio, recorded by Bob Stanley and his orchestra in 1944. To learn more about joining the Ohio Genealogical Society, visit www.ogs.org.